Pleasure meeting you. That's okay. So again, my name is Kevin Collins. I'm a community health worker, and I wrote this book. It's called Intergenerational Trauma from a Black Perspective. So this one today we're going to talk about is we're going to look at what is intergenerational trauma and how it has affected us as Black people historically, especially in our community. What are some of the social forces that have contributed to the ongoing trauma that we endure as Black people? And then what are some tools we can utilize to be able to break that traumatic cycle? So, intergenerational. Whenever we talk about the word intergenerational, and I use these dramatic photos to really put emphasis on what our ancestors went through and what we are going through internally as we as Black people in this country. So, intergenerational means something that's involving or affecting several generations. Trauma is a very intense definition because it depends on what discipline you want to use. You have psychology, sociology, physiology. You have a lot of different disciplines that describe trauma differently. But if you look at trauma in the Oxford Dictionary, it just says that it's a deeply distressing or disturbing experience and is caused by an emotional response to a tragic event. So, another piece that I found out is this study called epigenetics. Epigenetics is what it is it's the study of intergenerational trauma. And what it does is it talks about how the transmission of trauma can actually not change the genes, but it can alter the genes. And what it does is that the way things goes epigenetically is that this transmission of trauma can be transmitted through the parents' actions. So when the parents are doing certain things that they're affected by the trauma, they can transmit this trauma based off how they're reacting in front of that child.
That's what a pregnant woman does. She affects the baby, right?
So if a mother is being traumatized while the baby's in her womb, right, that trauma is transmitted to the child. And then the child then comes out with that not understanding what's going on. Same thing with drugs.
Okay.
If that drug is inside the mother, that child now is affected by that drug. And it could affect that child to where it always wants that drug, or it can alter that child's development or abilities, yeah. So, intergenerational trauma. What it is it's the transmission based off Duke, the school, it was a university, which I'm not a fan of, Duke University, but I have to use their information because this is where I got a lot of it from. But it affects us historically. And it's based off the events that happens in our past. So when you start talking about it, it can affect communities. So say, for instance, one person comes in that has this transmitted trauma, and they move into your community. That person can affect the community on how they begin to react, because if you see somebody come in your community today and they have a mental health disorder, the community is quiet. But then you get this one guy in there, especially an apartment complex. Let's put an apartment complex. You in an apartment complex, and the apartment complex is quiet. All of a sudden, you get this dude in there, boom, boom, kicking and doing all the crazy stuff. You're like, okay, I can't go to sleep now. Now you're affected by that person. So this is how transmitted trauma can actually affect the community. And that's what's happening in our country today. What our ancestors went through in the past
is it affecting us now?
It's affecting us today. Because, here, I'm going to get into this right now. Well, actually, next one. This right here, I love this lady. Her name is Pamela C. Alexander. And she talks about transmission of trauma. So what happens with transmission of trauma is if a parent, and it's been proven by therapists, if a parent has been, and we talked about this in family violence, if a parent has been involved in a violent situation, that parent will therefore go on to become a violent individual if they don't take care of that situation right at hand. So a lot of times what happens is our ancestors, they were traumatically, they were beaten. Different things happened to them. And they never were able to get any help because they call them the N-word. They're ignorant. They don't need any help. So they were never able to get any type of resources or any type of help because of the traumatic events that they experienced.
They show that in the movie called Roots, where they show the guy Toby.
Yeah, that's not one of my favorite movies. Like Django Unchained, I don't like that movie.
Oh, okay.
I didn't like Roots. The reason why I don't like Roots, which we're going to kind of go into this a little bit further.
Because they got
Yeah, he did.
Right.
But the bad part about it, I just don't like the stereotypes.
Also from a white director.
Right, exactly. And that's something that I have a very negative opinion about too, because if you looked at the writer's strike, you hardly seen there are very few of us out there.
Right.
But how many black movies do you see on TV? So it's like, okay, who is making these, who's writing this stuff?
Right.
So memory helps account for human behavior. If you look at our collective identities, when you begin to see these collective identities are formed based on what we see on television. So a lot of times when you begin to look at the things that's happening to us, through our socializing of this particular one here, our families saw a lot of different people get hung. My grandfather, I remember him telling me a story. He said, grandson, when I was living in Alabama, when he was living in Alabama, what he saw was he actually saw black men get beat just because they looked at a white woman. And my grandfather was born in the 1900s. But he told me these stories as a little boy. And I really didn't understand it. Because, again, like I said, I grew up in a neighborhood where it was a salad bowl. And y'all know what I mean by salad bowl. But I'm gonna give you know what I mean. Okay, Ariel got it. There we go. I ain't got to explain it. But as we began to see, our accounts begin to happen because certain people can go ahead and do things in this society, and it takes forever for them to get punished for it. With the particular situation here with George Floyd, that was a racist act.
Right.
That was a literal racist act. He felt he can get away with that. So he stuck his knee on it. He looked around at everybody else like, what you gonna do? And I'm a white man. I have that
like
power.
Rodney King when they worked him over too.
Yeah. And see, that was something that was televised. How many I knew, we had a guy named, did you know Rodney King? So Rodney King, there was another guy we knew named Rodney King. He died before COVID. But we called him Rodney King because the police beat him up like that.
Right.
So that was his nickname, Rodney King. So how many people do you know? I mean, I know personally of people who have actually been beat by the police. There was nothing ever done to the police officers.
Right.
And that person walked around. Rodney King, he drunk himself to death. Because it just traumatized him so much that there was nothing else he can do but just drink alcohol. So he just destroyed himself that way. But again, we start talking about collectivism. We talk about roots. Roots, all it does is show us that we are nothing but black. We are nothing but slaves. We are less than citizens of this country. In all these different movies that we see, they portray us a little bit differently. So with this one, I have a 15-year-old daughter at home. And with my 15-year-old daughter, I tell people all the time, I don't know her. And what I mean by that is that I only know the person that's standing in front of me. I don't know what she's thinking when she's talking to me. So all I know is what London says to Daddy. That's it. But what London is thinking, I really don't know. So therefore, I don't truly know my daughter. I know who she is. I know what she's all about. I know she wants to be a veterinarian. I know all those things. But when you start looking at a person, you only know the person that's sitting in front of you. With this one here, when I say the point of do you know who you've met? So a lot of times we'll start finding out that if you start talking to people, you begin to find out that people, a lot of different people, have traumatic events that happen in their past that we don't even know about. I'll give you an example. I was working over at Venice Beach with my buddy Ben. He had a booth called Cool Runnings, if everybody heard of that place. It's closed now. But a girl came in one time, and she and I was talking. And if you've ever been to Venice Beach, people at Venice Beach know more about black history than we do. But this one young lady came in, and she told me a story about her grandmother. And her grandmother used to have this black teddy bear. And as she had the Alzheimer's, she would hold on to this black teddy bear. It was her consolement. It was her comforter. So she asked her grandmother, she said, why do you have a black teddy bear? She said, well, your grandfather, what he used to do was, every time, when I was a little girl, he would bring my black sisters or my black brothers, which I thought were my friends, and we would play together. When they reached puberty, he would take them away and sell them to slavery. And it traumatized her, because she could never understand why every time a black kid comes into my life, you take them away. And I don't understand this. And so she went through that her whole life. The kids would come in, and it got to the point where that black teddy bear was the only thing that she could hold on to. That was black, yeah. So we start looking at things, we may think that just because we're black people, we're the only ones that hated slavery. But it's a lot of white people. If it wasn't for the white people, we wouldn't be free. Right. Those are the ones who came up and fought for us to be free. To be funny about it, when George Floyd got beat up, I didn't see too many black women out there. I seen all white women. Don't kill that black man. I want me a black man too. But again, you saw the white folk that were out there fighting for our freedom. So just because we are black people going through the trauma that we're going through, it doesn't mean that we're the only ones going through this, because other people are empathetic to what's going on with us. And when they see this on TV, could you imagine what's going on in their heads and how they're being traumatized by this too? So to give you the black experience, in the 16th century, all the way up until we were enslaved in 1865, we had 300 years where black people had to worry about being captured, had to worry about being brutally raped, about being kidnapped. And we're not talking about in Africa. We're talking about here in the United States of America. So when you start talking about this, a lot of people don't know that if you ever look into the history books of the United States of America, the Americas, the oldest known civilization here are the Olmecs, O-L-M-E-C. You ever look them up, you'll see them. There's a book called They Were Here Before Us or something like that. And it's a book that talks about the Olmecs, how they were the original people and the oldest known civilization here. They were here before the Incas, they were here before the Mayans. They were here before them. They are the original. If you go talk to a lot of the indigenous people of this land, you go over to Pechanga and go behind there to the Indian reserves and talk to the real indigenous people, they'll tell you about those stories. That's where I learned a lot about this from. But during that time, after we went through that 300 years of just brutally being, our ancestors being brutalized the way they were, we had another 100 years after that. We had the Jim Crow laws. We had the Willie Lynch letter. Has anybody heard the Willie Lynch letter?
I heard of it, but I never read it.
So the Willie Lynch letter, when you look at it, most people are going to argue about it. They're going to say, oh, the Willie Lynch letter is fake. It was done after slavery, blah, 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 blah. The Willie Lynch letter says, and I won't quote it, but I'm going to give you the paraphrases of it. The older blacks go up against the younger blacks. Young blacks go up against the older blacks. Well, let me take it back. Here, he said, Willie Lynch came up and he was in front of a bunch of slave owners. He said, I have a sure method on how you can control your slaves. And this is how I've done it on my plantation. If you take the older slaves and put them up against the younger slaves, and the younger slaves up against the older slaves, you will have conflict. If you take the women and put them up against the men, and you elevate the women above the men, and then you take the men and put them up against the women, you have control. If you take the light-skinned slaves and put them up against the dark-skinned slaves, and the dark-skinned slaves up against the light-skinned slaves, you will have control. And you also have what we're called the indentured slaves, which were the white slaves that came from Germany and all these other lands. If you take them and put them on a pedestal and make them feel as if the blacks are below them, you also have control of those slaves too. So that Willie Lynch letter really made it huge to where, as you look in society today, you see it manifesting itself today. Huge. Because you got light-skinned blacks against dark-skinned black. Right now, the black man and the black woman, it's hard for us to get together. And if you come in our neighborhoods, you got the older people going up against the young folk bouncing up against the older people.
No respect.
At all. Now, you got another one that came up against us. I'm just giving y'all, era by era. So this was in the 1800s, roughly around after slavery to about 1930. We had to deal with that. Then you had the war on drugs, the red line districts, and the tracts. The red line districts, when you talk about the red line districts, what they did was the real estate agencies, what they would do is they would create this area. And if anybody know about South Central Los Angeles, this was a red line district. If you go to Alabama, the rich neighborhoods were separated by railroad tracks. So what they would do is they would say, okay, you ends can't cross, we will not let any black people buy any property on this other side. So we had the red line districts and you stayed on this side of the track. Normally what happens was, in the red line districts, on the other side of the track, you had no resources. Look in our neighborhoods today. The jobs that we have over here now, McDonald's. You really don't have no grocery stores over here. Rouse, but that's not really a job. How many people are going to work at Rouse? You got 300 people living in the neighborhood, only 20 people can work inside that store. So then all of the big, all
But a
the
lot of companies left. 'Cause my dad used to work down in Long Beach. They used to have Rockwell, Lockheed. They used to have Chevron Oil and stuff.
Alameda, down Alameda,
Right.
used to, the projects that's over there, the Nixon Gardens and the Jordan Downs and all that, that used to be the place where all the people who worked at the factories lived.
Right.
So that used to be Rocket Jet and all them big corporations over there.
Like Michigan Tires and stuff.
Do you know why they named Firestone Boulevard Firestone, or Alameda and Firestone meet?
Right.
That used to be Firestone's plant right there. That brick building is still sitting there.
Right.
That used to be the Firestone plant.
I didn't realize that.
All of that left here with the white flight. No blacks don't have no jobs now.
Right.
Yeah, most blacks had to go way over in El Segundo to work,
Right.
Santa Monica to work, if you wanted to keep those jobs. And you was really struggling over there because if you had that white foreman, he made your job harder. So you'd have a lot of angry blacks coming home. You had the daddies coming home. I done dealt with this white man all daggone day to day. And then the wife was like, babe, I don't want to deal with you, woman. I done dealt with this white man all day. And those are the stories we heard all day long.
Right.
The black father coming home, I done dealt with that white man all day today. We dealt with so much segregation that when they tried to put us together, we still were segregated.
Right.
If you look, when I went in the United States Marine Corps, they said you are a United States Marine. It's not true. You had the dark Marines and the light Marines. What in the world is this?
They segregated in the Army?
I don't know about the Army. I was a Marine, so I don't know about the Army.
Segregated in the Marines?
They did it, but they talked about it wasn't segregated. Well, why are you calling this Marine a dark Marine and this Marine a light Marine?
Right.
What's the purpose? So there's still segregation, but it was under the covers. Our legal system when it comes to mistreatment. If you look right here, this happened to me when I was a young man. I was about 15, 16 years old. Me and my boys out there, we was playing around, going out there, and the police, a black cop now. That's why when I grew up, I had a huge resentment against black people because we, again, were pitted up against ourselves. This older black cop was trying to show off in front of this white cop. So we out all the time. Yeah, so we riding. He come up, he grabs us, just like in Boys in the Hood. Right. He grabbed us, threw our heads on this hot, it's hot outside. He put my head on this hot hood. I'm like, hey, man, what's going on? I'm just riding my BMX bike. Why y'all sweating us? Shut up, you little end. What? So I'm ready. Now, at that point, I wasn't scared of cops. My dad said, you be scared of the police, they're going to kill you. Yeah, but they got to pull their gun. My grandfather told me they got to pull their gun out first. So they got to get that gun. And they weren't wearing bulletproof vests back then in the 80s. They weren't wearing them, so we was ready. But again, we had this going on with us, our legal system mistreatment. Our black men were going through it all the time.
They still do that now. They stop a group of black guys in a group and stuff.
Yeah. We done got out the car and ran a couple of times.
Right.
See that, and the homie stay in his car, pow! Yeah. We were gone. And back then, in them days, you had them fat cops. They they couldn't catch you. Nah.
You get away, too.
Yeah.
You get away because they didn't have a helicopter.
Well, they only had the 6-shooter.
Right.
So, pow, 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 pow. Once that 6 shot is gone, you turn back around. It's like, okay, now what's happening?
They got the helicopter and everything.
The ghetto bird. It is, yeah.
The eye in the sky, the eyeball.
Yeah, yeah. And then this is what my father went through. My father, who's alive to this day, he told me stories about where he had to drink out of black water fountains. The white water fountains were nice.
Right.
The black water fountains were nasty.
Yeah.
You also the comedy guys there.
So this one, we start talking about our arousal. That was the same thing. We're talking about the treatment of blacks. Right. His opinion, lock them all down and throw away the key. And then wait, white people are dying. Build a treatment center. Whenever it comes to what's going on with black people, like we talked about earlier,
right.
We didn't have any, when black people were dealing with drugs, the first thing they said was, lock them all down. Let's put them all in the 70s and 80s, lock them up. Right. Now, you ride across, to this day, anybody who has drugs is now a disease. Right. Before it was a crime to do drugs when black people did it. But now that these white people are getting it, it's a crime. I mean, now it's a disease. Yeah. Right. So you can see the very mixed and out of place thoughts that they have when it comes to us. This right here is a picture of during the George Floyd protest. What we began to see is during the Watch riots and other riots, they always say black people burn down their own communities. Right. They always say that. This is perfect proof that we don't do that. Because during the protest, there was a helicopter going over down in Hollywood. Right. All the black people were protesting, but it was fires going on on the other side. Those fires was done to arouse the black protesters. When you're mad and angry about something going on, your emotions are getting overwhelmed, and you begin to react off those emotions. So black people start fire, you're in a rage. That fire, it's like a what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a yeah, there you go, a catalyst. And what it is, a trigger is what I was looking for. Yeah, it's a trigger. You sitting there, fire, you're already mad. Now you're ready to burn some more stuff down, which will now antagonize the blacks to start burning stuff down. But this saved us.
Yeah, when the Rodney King riots, a lot of buildings got burned down, but Chinatown never was touched.
Right. You got a lot of things that happened in a lot of the places that got burned. When I was in the Marine Corps, you saw Chinese people burn their own buildings down, saying black people was doing it. And that same thing happened with this one. This guy right here is coming out of a building and he set on fire.
Right.
He's a white guy, but the blacks were, if you looked at the media, the blacks were seen as saying they would burn their own community down. Right. And it's not necessarily true. We're being antagonized by these people here. So we got all these forces coming up against us.
Can I say something?
Sure.
In Venice by the beach, the police was setting a lot of the riots between the blacks and the Mexicans.
So
killing a lot of them and making it seem like the Mexicans was doing it and they weren't.
So when I was growing up in LA in the 80s, we used to have the issue where the police officers would say, hey man, what's that you from? And they see a guy with all blue on. Right. Like, well, you a Crip, huh? You a Crip, huh? All right. They'd drop them off in the Nickersons. That was the number one, the Nickersons, or they drop them off in the village. Right. And they drop them right off in the village, and the police would hit the sirens. Woo! We left a Crip for y'all. And I remember that when I was over in the Nickersons, it happened. I was over there just hanging out. And I seen the police car creep up on in there, and all the Nickersons, they was like, oh, blood, he got one. And they started following the police car. He dropped him right off in the middle of the Nickersons. And when he got out, he was blued up, blue rag, everything. They beat that boy. He got out of there, but he barely made it. It was horrible. That's our police. When I was growing up as a young man, when I was real young, I snuck out the house one night. My parents was gone. My dad worked at night, and my mom, she worked for Hughes Aircraft. So she was gone, so nobody was home with us that night. I snuck out. I'm sitting down, I was about maybe 11, 12 years old, sitting out with the Denver Lanes. So at the time, I knew some guys from Raymond Avenue Crip. So this car drives by, the window goes down, and I saw this white face, a white man. But the other person, because I'm so low to the ground, I can see inside the car. Everybody else is tall. They can't see inside the car. So the guy come out with the gun, Raymond Avenue Crip, cuz, blah, 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 blah. He killed the homie, standing right beside me, killed him. But he drove off. And I remember to this day, I can remember that if I see that white man right now, I'll better point him out. I know exactly what he was, blue-eyed, white guy, blonde hair, the whole nine. I remember him. But and I went to the Raymond, I said, man, y'all got any? I talked to one of the big homies. I said, hey man, y'all got any white boys from Raymond Avenue Crip? He's like, man, cuz, no, we ain't got no crackers up in here. So I was, wow, I said, so my boy Scrap had went over into their hood and killed somebody in their hood. We started a war between the Raymond Avenue Crips and the Denver Lanes. But what happened was that white man and his posse started that war. I think he was, yeah. So what happens a lot in our communities, the police are a lot of ones that antagonize a lot of stuff that goes on.
Act like gangs too.
Well, if you go back to the history of the police department, you know what the LAPD was. They were utilized to round up all the blacks that were runaway slaves.
Oh, okay.
That was the original.
Mm-hmm. I've seen those pictures and stuff. The badge is like the same as it was for slave patrol.
Yep, exactly. Mm-hmm. So, W.E. Du Bois, when you start talking about the black identity, we have had mixtures of black identities when it comes to our history. W.E.B. Du Bois, when they started talking about African American, that was called double consciousness. What that means is that you're going to have loyalty to one, but actually be a part of something else, African American. So you're loyal to the American soil. Most people that are black here, I love America. America's my land. I love America, but I'm African. But I don't want to go back to Africa. Right. So I show respect for Africa, but I'm loyal to America. That's a double consciousness. We're mixed up. We don't know what's going on. Yeah. And that's how we are. When they say I'm African American, when people call me African American, like, dude, I ain't from Africa. Right. I ain't never seen Africa. I don't even know what Africa looked like.
Same with me.
Yeah. And like I said, again, most of us are not from Africa. If anybody knows about this land before the Great Breakup, it was called Tanzania or Tangia. That's when all the land masses was one. Now, an earthquake or something happened where all the land split apart. There were people on this land, and it just floated off. So the
I'm sorry, I tease my mom about living in Venice by the beach. I'm like, all right, you and that raft gonna be over there. She's like, I'm worried about the tsunami. I'm like, well, you better not get on that raft, baby. You're gonna float right on over.
exactly, you're gonna be a part of that.
Is there any way to prove that point you was talking about?
About Tanzania?
That the land breaking up?
Yeah, it's in history books.
Oh,
That's why I found all this stuff. Everything I'm telling you, I read it.
Oh,
but you have to see. They're not gonna put it on the internet. You got to buy these books. And I go to Barnes & Nobles. My wife gets mad. I got 9 books in my house right now I ain't read yet.
Right.
Because I just love reading. Especially when we go on trips or plane. She don't drive, so I got to drive. But when I was younger, when I was in the Marine Corps, and I used to go places, I grabbed a book and I would read everywhere I went.
Oh.
And my grandfather, that's how I grew up. My grandfather and my grandparents, when I used to go to their house, because I went to John Muir for school. You remember John Muir?
Yeah, I went,
You did?
I went there too.
So I used to go to their house to go to school. When I got there, my grandparents was like, I got a paper to do. My grandparents were like, look, you got all these encyclopedias. Ain't no reason. Hey, Miss Joe, how you doing?
I'm tired. Hi. Hello, everybody.
You ain't got no reason not to study.
Right.
Here it is right here. Study, boy. So I study. And you nothing you can tell me. I used to be in my classes going at it with the history teachers. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I used to have fun. So in the 19th and 20th century, what happened was European Americans came over here to establish themselves as the elite people. That's the Germans, a lot of the Germans, the Irish. If anybody ever seen, oh my God, Gone with the Wind.
Yeah, I seen that.
Yeah, Gone with the Wind. That movie would demonstrate to you how the whites came over here with their sidewinder mentality.
Right.
As saying, I'm going to buy up all this land. But in order for me to buy up all this land, I need workers for free. That's where Johnson & Johnson made a lot of different good money. That's what a lot of these big corporations that we're looking at today.
They showed that Christmas movie, I forget, My Little House.
Little House on the Prairie?
No, it's the Christmas movie where the guy investor buying up all the land and stuff. They show it every Christmas and stuff. I forget the name of it. I can't think of the name of it.
Let me know about that. I'll watch, because I don't watch that much TV.
Right.
I'm a book reader. But again, they was establishing themselves as a superior race.
Right.
And they did it. That's why a lot of times, you have the superior race when it comes to that elite race. That's why you got a lot of these white kids walking around with the swastika stuff.
Right.
Thinking that the eugenics, you had that eugenics issue going on, where they're saying we're a pure race.
And the Confederate flag.
I got that right here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I wear that because that flag meant rebel. Yeah, it was a Dukes of Hazzard. That flag means rebel, and I wear it. See, I wear it around. I'm more of an antagonist myself.
Right.
So when I get around white people who think they're better than me,
Right.
I'll wear stuff like this, and I'll have it on,
Right.
and they'll be, "What you doing wearing that top stuff?" They'll be like, "Because, brother, if it hadn't been for us, y'all wouldn't be able to wave that flag." There's a lot of blacks that came over here prior to y'all that made this land what it was, even before the Olmecs. After the Olmecs, you had people who were journeymen coming over here, the Black Moors,
Right.
which a lot of the Spaniards called the Black Moors or the Moorish people, because they were dark. In Europe, you had the people who were Moors.
Right.
So they assumed when they got here, all dark people who was dressed nice
Right.
were Moors. Not to say that these were just regular black people.
Right.
We also had legislation that subjugated black people. When you start looking at a lot of the legislation, we have a civil rights law
Right.
that says that we have the rights to be here in this country. We have a right to vote. We have all these different rights that they began to separate us from being the people of this country.
Right.
But if you read the preamble, it says, "We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, provide,
Establish justice.
yeah, and tranquility,
Right.
provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and
Secure the blessings of liberty to
For-
ourselves and our posterity.
right, there you go.
School of Rock.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. I'm singing a song in my head right now too, yeah. So what we don't understand is a lot of people don't understand what that preamble is, posterity. Posterity means when my grandfather was born not as a slave, which meant my mother is now the person that falls up under the United States Constitution. My grandfather didn't because his mother and father were slaves. So a person that's born on this land as a free citizen, their children are the posterities. So therefore, my mother has the posterity. Right. So therefore, she does no longer need to have any civil rights laws. She falls up under the U.S. Constitution. Right. We as black people didn't realize that. So we fought for years and years, civil rights and all these different things that we need to have. It's like, no, you fall up under the U.S. Constitution. Let's fight for this now. You're going to treat me right. If you come in my house and you got a gun, I'm going to blow your so-and-so away. Right. And I have the right in this United States of America to bear arms. But as you begin to see,
since you mentioned, a lot of Latinos feel that way. They have a right in this country since they understand our laws and rules.
Yeah, because they learned it.
Right.
But we didn't. That's the problem. There's a difference between us. When they come to become citizens, they have to learn that all that stuff, the middle name, I don't know the middle name of the presidents, right. But they have to learn the middle name of the presidents. They got to learn so much about the law. So they're aware of all the laws. Another thing that we talk about is that when you start talking about us being citizens of the land, we have the right to bear arms. We also, you threw me off on that one. I go back to it. I find out what I was going to say again. But our film and television, as you see right here, most of the times when you look at a black man on TV, what's the number one thing you see here a black man as?
He's running from the law, or he's being arrested.
He's a criminal.
Right.
And if you look at our black women, what's the number one thing you see our black women as? Right. So here's the thing that really, this is one of the reasons why I don't watch any award shows. Right. What did Denzel Washington have to do in order to win his Oscar? He had to portray himself as a criminal cop. All of them movies that he played in, beautiful acting, he never got an Oscar for. But when he became a criminal cop, they gave him an Oscar. Right. Halle Berry. All them movies Halle Berry starred in, great actor.
Samuel Jackson.
Well, I'm just going to Halle Berry now. She had to go and have sex with a white man to get an Oscar.
Talk about it.
So these are I use them two all the time because what they went through, they were great actors. Right. But they had to portray, now Samuel L. Jackson, every movie he comes into, he cussing. So they're going to give him an Oscar. Because yeah, huh? Yeah, but you are the end we want. So here's your Oscar. Thank you. Right. So that's where we started. That's why I don't watch award shows. I have never watched the Oscars. Never. Only time I watched the Oscars on Looney Tunes. Only time I watched it. Other than that, I've never watched the Oscars.
Never watched it either.
Because it wasn't for us.
Right.
It's not for us. So here we go. Think about this. Check this out. This is what I get up. I'm upset with Will Smith on that. I'm upset with Will Smith. The first time we have a black man produce this show, right. Instead of Will Packard being talked about, we talk about Will Smith. That's the first time a black man produced it. But Will Smith stands up there and hits Chris Rock. Two black men fight on television. Destroy Will Packard's whole thing. How beautiful that show was.
Black guy produced that show?
Will Packard.
Who is Will
See?
Packard?
See what I'm saying? Will Packard was the producer. He produced the Oscars that year.
Oh, okay.
He produced it. But they going to put Will Smith up there. Everybody talks about Will Smith smacking Chris Rock. Right. Nobody talks about the great work that Will Packard did. See how we kill each other?
Right.
All day. So we inherit this pain. Intergenerational trauma, yeah. We inherit this pain because this is a cultural issue that goes on with us. We see it on the television. Our parents have dealt with this. It is bombarded down our throats. We have been bombarded with all of this trauma. Right. So this is what's happening to us as we begin to deal with it as black people. We constantly get this negative energy all the time, which is hard for us to be able to break that cycle because it's pushed down our throats.
Yes, I don't mean to get sidetracked off the, like when I go into my meetings, with me just trying to address the issues that I'm having without getting the help, they say I have an attitude.
You're an angry black woman.
Mm-hmm. And I'm saying I'm just trying to get some help.
Right, yeah.
So how do I have an attitude by just asking for help or using the chain of command because this young lady is not helping
me? Exactly. Yeah, and then when you bring that up, they're gonna say, "Oh, she's being racist. She don't like that other nationality." That's the first thing that's brought up against us. So how can I be racist when you're discriminating against me? It's hard for a black person to be racist when we're being discriminated constantly.
Right.
We're fighting.
Right.
Instead of a black person surviving in this country, instead of a black person living in this country, we're struggling to survive.
Right.
We're on survival mode all the time. Constantly. We're sitting there, police pull up. My dad told me one time, he said, every time the police come up behind me, he get nervous. You see, me, the military messed me up. When the police, my brother tell you, the police used to pull me up, I used to jump out the car like, what the fuck you want? I didn't care. I just didn't care. I didn't care about living. So if you're going to pull that gun out, you better make sure you kill me. And you better make sure you get that gun out before I get to you. Because when I grab you, it's over. I'm going to hurt you, and I'm going to make sure I hurt you so daggone bad. When they put me up, they're going to put me under the jail. And when I get in there, them white boys going to beat me every day because of how bad I beat you. That's how I felt about police officers until my brother became a cop.
They teach you a lot of moral standards too, don't they?
They teach you discipline.
Okay.
I won't say moral standards. I will not. Only thing we have is the Geneva Convention. The Geneva Convention said if they parachuting out of the sky, you can't shoot them while they parachuting. So we sit there like, okay, soon his foot that down ground, hit that ground, pow, he gone. All you gotta do is let that one toe hit and I got you.
Another thing is no more number one. First thing.
Yeah.
No more number one.
Mm-mm.
Number one is you. It's your team.
Yeah.
No more number one.
It's a team. Yeah. In the military, in the Marine Corps, they used to tell us, you are given so many bullets, so every bullet counts. So most people, no, not that war movie stuff. That ain't how it is in the military, in the Marine Corps. No, it's like, pow, I got him. Pow, that's how we learned. I was an expert shooter. I was an expert rifleman. I qualified every year, expert. I made sure every time I hit that, I'm hitting bullseye, center mass. I'm gonna make sure I kill, and that was my mentality growing up.
They teach you brotherhood in there, how to work together and stuff.
They do. But unfortunately, that the Marine Corps teaches you brotherhood. It's almost like you say, just like the Department of Mental Health. Department of Health is great.
Right.
It's the people in it that makes it the problem.
Come on.
It's the same thing in the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps is a wonderful establishment. Right. It's the people in it.
Oh, okay.
It's some racist people that's in there that think they're better than you. It's these racist people. It's these racist people inside of all these organizations that think they're better than you because of their skin color. Right. It's like your skin color doesn't make you any better. Actually, you're worse because I can go sit out in the sun. It ain't gonna happen to me. Right. You go out there too long, you're gonna burn. Right. So, again, they got to, it's just some people, they just have to feel like they're better than someone else because they have a problem with themselves. They're not happy with themselves. So it actually makes it to where they have to step on us all the time. When people are going through this intergenerational trauma, what begins to happen is we begin to disconnect from each other. When my mother used to come to me and tell me, Kevin, be careful when you go out there with the police because the police is going to harm you. My disconnection with her was like, how you going to tell me to be careful with them fools? They're supposed to be protecting me. Care about no police. They not put my head on the daggone car, now they sweat one of my homies. I seen them kill one of my partners. I don't care about no police. And my grandfather told me, they got to get to that gun and they got to clip before they think that off. So they got to unclip it. So man, you better hurry up, get that thing out you better get out your holster before I get there. Right. And I was young. Now I ain't gonna do it now. I'm too old. I move too slow now. When I was younger, it was on. Right. But we go into a denial. Right. That's a denial phase. We're gonna say to ourselves, you know what? Even though the whites are doing what they're doing, there's nothing I can do about it. And that's discrimination. When you get discriminated against, anybody ever seen the blue-eyed, brown-eyed experiment? No. It's on Facebook. On YouTube. Go on YouTube. It's called the blue-eyed, brown-eyed experiment. And it demonstrates what happens to someone when they're discriminated against. Children, when she did the experiment on the children are naturally loving. We're naturally born loving individuals. None of us are born racist. They can say that all day long. None of us are born racist. It's learned. These children, when they were sitting there with their little friends, and the lady said, okay, you blue-eyed kids, you're better than the brown-eyed kids, and she pinned them up against each other. She pushed the brown-eyed kids over in one corner, and the brown-eyed kids was mad because they couldn't play with their blue-eyed friend. It wasn't the fact that their blue-eyed friend was discriminating against them. They were upset because they can't play with their friend anymore. Right. But when you did the adults, oh my God. These people, now what you begin to see is in the experiment, what I noticed in the experiment is that when you become discriminated against, this stereotype becomes magnified. So the stereotypical black woman, that angry black woman, was a white, blue-eyed woman in there. And she was, she got discriminated, he ain't gonna tell me because I got blue eyes that I'm not somebody important. And she was angry. I mean, angry throughout the whole video. And the one white guy in the back, he was just like most black guys. Man, I ain't sitting down, I ain't doing nothing you say. You ain't finna discriminate against me. And that's how we act. Right. You see most black people now, we act that way because we've been discriminated against so long that we just don't care and almost like, no, you're not finna tell me what you're gonna do to me. I'd rather die. Tupac said it. I'd rather live than a man than die like a coward. He put it in his album. You got a lot of artists that are going out there saying this. Our rappers, most people was against our rappers. Most of our rappers told the story of the streets. Cube was one of the first ones I listened to. He told the story. And when they said that song, F the Police, man, every time they went to a concert, the police sitting there waiting for them. You can't sing that. You sing every other song, talking about the women as black bees and all the other stuff, but you better not sing that song, F the Police. Any discriminating song against us as people, do it. But the minute you go up against those racist white people, they're ready to stop you. So this is some of the things that we go through. We become detached from each other. As you look at most of us as black people, we don't get along with each other. A lot of that goes from that Willie Lynch letter. That Willie Lynch letter is very strong, it's very powerful. And we're detached from each other. A lot of young
black men nowadays don't hardly marry a black woman these days. They marry somebody else.
And yeah, and that's the struggle too, because what happened was, I'll go back to the other one I was talking about when it comes to what they did in our black communities. Right. The war on drugs, which was actually a war on our community, right. They took the black men and they took them out of the home. So now the kids are being raised by a mother. Right. The mother is frustrated. Then they send these perverts into the community. These Uncle Toms that come in there and the only thing they want to do is jiki with the women. Right. And then they see a little girl in the house, like, ooh, I like her too. And they go and mess that little girl. And then you got a lot of them too, look at the little boy, like, oh, that little boy look kind of cute too, I want to keep him too. Right. You got these, and the mother, she's frustrated. She's caught up in all of this. Right. Because, and then again, they pinned us up against her. Because they're like, well, you know what? That man making a lot of money, go and get child support from him. Instead of y'all working together, I want some money. And the government sits there and says, hey, this is okay. Go ahead and go up against that black man. Go get that money from him. So that way y'all can go up against each other. And the kids are sitting there looking at my mom and my daddy arguing. Nobody's getting along.
What about the mixed kids? They have a better chance of making it in this country?
They have it worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have it worse because once they have no identity. They don't know who they are. They don't know if I'm black or I'm white. Right. They can't fit into the white people because you got the curly nappy head. You one of the black people. Right. And you come to the black people, now you one of them. It's like, well, where do I go now? Where do I fit in? Right. That's why Tiger Woods had the attitude he has. I ain't neither one of them. I'm a chicken little whatever you call itself. Right. We distance ourselves from each other. That happens. When we begin to look at each other, we get jealous of each other as black people. I get jealous of this black man because he's doing better than me. Right. And then the black man doing better than me, looking down at me, it's like, you should be doing better than what you're doing because I made it. Mm-hmm. And we start having these issues against each other. It's just inherited. We keep on doing the same thing over and over again because of what we see on TV and what our parents have put us through. Right. And then we have what's called impaired self-esteem. And that's coming from children being minimized. A lot of times what happens with the poor mothers, this happens this way. And dads do this too. A father who has an issue with the mother and that little girl acts like the mama, you acting just like that so-and-so. Call her the B word. And the little girl like, what? Daddy, you calling me the B word? I'm your daughter. Well, I'm talking about your mama. You acting just like her though. And you got the little girl, the boy, the mama say, you acting just like your daddy. Mom, I just heard you a few minutes ago talking about how sorry and he ain't no good. Now I'm like my daddy? Right. So the boys get resentful. The girls get resentful. And then all of a sudden we got this low self-esteem. Now we're pushing each other down. And it's all because of the trauma we went through in that relationship. Right. It's that, and a lot of times what I call it is that little boy or that little girl is not allowing that man or that woman to speak. Because all the trauma you went through as a child, you're still stuck there. You never got any assistance from that childhood. So you're still stuck there. And now when it comes to being an adult, you still remember what your mama said to you. Right. So when a woman come up to you, she acts just like my mama. She one of them too. I can't stand my dad or my mama. I don't even want no black woman no more. Let me go get this white girl over here. They gonna treat me better.
Right.
Can I say so?
Sure.
That's where I'm at with Bruce. I don't want him to grow up having the trauma that me and him went through with his dad, the loss of his brother, and then losing his dad, and me not knowing how to handle him and that trauma of my own.
Yeah.
I want him to be a better young man.
Yeah, and that's a struggle. It's a struggle because a mother knows how to be a woman. A father knows how to be a man. So a father can teach a boy how to be a man. I've been there before. I know how it is when you go to the bathroom, you miss the toilet, and you know you got to figure out how to get there again. I ain't never went through the process of being a woman, so I can't teach my daughter how to be a woman. Only thing I teach my daughter is this is how daddy communicates with women. And this is what daddy thinks a woman should be like. But I don't know. But I can tell you what attracts me to women. So my communication with her will allow her to be able to have a relationship with a man unconditionally, which is that agape. You know, daddy just loves you unconditionally. You ain't got to give me nothing but you. So now when she meets that man, it's like, oh, I had that relationship with my dad. So now I'm looking for a man to treat me the same way. That happens with boys too. Me and mama, we having a conversation. I could talk to mama, me and her can have conversations. That's how I was with my mother. Am I having problems? Mom, I need to talk to you. Well, boy, I ain't got time to talk right now. Wait till I get done when I'm doing cooking this meal right now. Your daddy gonna be home in a few minutes. When I get done, you gonna get, okay, mama. I get back in there. She said, when I get done cooking, you can talk to me. All right, mama. And then later on that evening, when my dad get home, he done ate dinner, he can calm down. Now she's calm, he done ate, she done fed everybody. I know I can come talk to her. But it's a learned environment. You know, young men, we have to be patient with our mothers. Young girls have to be patient with their fathers. And when you do that, when you get into your relationship, like my wife is right now, I'm patient with her sometimes. Because sometimes it's like, hey, I had a bad day at school, at work too. You had this bad day, I'm going to go outside and beat on something real quick and then come back and talk to her.
Game, it relaxes you real good.
If they winning. If they ain't losing, don't come in there messing with me right now. They losing, they ain't want to talk, no, get out of here. So, I say, how do you feel? But this is to flip the script on people. This is when I talk to people who have been in my trainings or in these workshops who not black, who's never been a black person before. And I always ask the question, how would you feel? How would you feel if you sitting there talking to me and Paul sitting there talking, or, you know, we talking and everything. Next thing you know, I'd take Paul and put Paul in slavery. How would Paul feel now?
Scared, frightened.
Pissed off at me.
Right.
How you gonna betray me like this? We friends, I trusted you. Now you gonna sell me into slavery?
Right.
How would you feel if someone was to come in and, well, I gotta laugh this because I'm gonna tell y'all, but how would you feel if you sitting there with your wife and everything's going good and you got your wife and everything, or you with your husband and everything's going good, somebody come up and snatch him up and take him away from you? Or rape that person in front of you?
You be angry, upset.
Well, one guy I did one time, he said, I celebrate. I was like, dang, dog, that's not a good relationship you in right now, brother. You shouldn't be celebrating over losing your wife, but, you know, that's how some people are. What would you do if you were unable to practice your culture? You know, you go to church every Sunday. You get up my ritual every morning is I get up every morning, I stretch, I pray to God, I give God thanks for just letting me sleep throughout the night. Allowing me to just do the simplest thing, inhaling and exhaling. How many times, I say this to people all the time, how many times have you had to think about inhaling and exhaling? Right. It happens all the time. I thank God for that.
Your culture gives you an identity. It gives you an identity, a certainty.
Yeah, right. And that's how society is built. You know, if you have a culture, she has a culture, he has a culture, she has a culture, right, and we all come together and understand each other, now we have an understanding of how each other reacts, right, how we can get along. If I understand that when I bring some food in here, Paul gonna eat it, I know I better bring enough food in here for Paul to eat. You know what I mean? But that's just understanding. And then if I come in here and then I know at 12 o'clock, Jason got to get up out of here. I mean, at 2 o'clock, he got to be gone. I need to shut up start wrapping this up about 15 minutes till. Right. You know what I mean? So these are understandings but you don't get a chance to understand that until you know that person. Right. So that's where that piece comes in at.
It's funny that you said that because I try to do as much role play as I possibly can with my son. He's allergic to peanut butter. So I told him, what if I brought you a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? How would you feel? I did that same thing. that's the same way I feel when you're not listening to me.
Right. Yeah. You coming up against him.
My spirit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you do stuff that's, when you make poor decisions. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That's a great way of putting it. So, cultural and national trauma. We start talking about cultural expressions. Culture is the only means through which humanity can become diverse and be respected in the space of discussions. Like I said, when I talk to you about your culture, when I talk to Corinne about her culture, me and her get along real good. Because I know when Corinne called me, I can tell her by her voice when she's upset. She got a certain tone in her voice when I'm like, okay, she upset about something. Let me listen. Is she ready to let it go? And she, I'm like, okay, Corinne, yeah, I'm just listening. I know she mad. But then when she in a good mood, I know how to say something joking to make her laugh. And she knows me. I'm going to say something to make her laugh. And you so silly, but I silly say this. And she go. Another thing, too, is you start talking about our national trauma. So national trauma comes to the point where you get relocated to a foreign land. So you think about this. Now, we talked about this last week when we started talking about immigration. But think about this when it comes to black people. So now, here we are. We were all free at one time. Our ancestors were free. Running around, doing the dances and everything else, having our rituals and doing everything we wanted to do, and someone snatched them up. And now we're unable to practice this religion anymore. Now we're stuck doing Catholic stuff, something we're not used to. Catholic religion is not our religion. It was something that was forced on us.
What about Baptists?
That was not our religion. That was forced on us.
Oh, okay.
All that stuff was forced on us. We don't know our original religion. We don't know it. It was taken away from us. So that's why a lot of us are so confused. You go into the churches now, everybody's ready to argue. Right. Seriously, you go into a church like now, you walk into a church, especially one of them old Baptist churches, right, with some t-shirt and the jeans on. Man, you about to get turned around out that church. Get up out of you coming in the Lord's house like that. But then you go into these new churches where they got the what's the name, Cleveland? The new rapping and all the dancing stuff going on, the hollering. Yeah, Kirk Franklin. You got the hollering and screaming, people sweating in there. You get some people like, whoa, this must be a sinful church. What's going on in here? But it's just because we have something that's not been, taken away from us. Our natural religion was dance. If you ever look at a lot of Africans, or not Africans, if you look at a lot of black people, when do we really have a lot of fun? When we getting loud with each other, we out there having a ball. You ain't gotta have no alcohol. Just dancing and having a great time, talking and laughing. That is our culture. That was lost from us. It was taken away from us. So now most of us are stuck because we want to look good in front of the massa. Because the older blacks, my mother's one, I had to break her up of this. Me and her talk about it just a lot. But I said, Mom and Dad, that's looking good in front of the massa. She's like, I don't like girls coming outside with their natural hair stuck in all out. I said, Mama, but do you realize when a woman back in the days, that was our way of expression, our beautiful hair, that nappy hair. Can you imagine? We can walk out and the lights could be everywhere and the lights won't get in our hair, but that straight hair, the lights all up in there. That was our expression of saying we are naturally beautiful. Our women are naturally beautiful. Our men with their froze, our hair naturally being out. That is us. Putting a perm in your head is not natural.
What about dreadlocks?
Okay, I'm not supposed to talk about religion, but if you look in the Bible, it talks about Jesus Christ having locks. His hair was long, it was locked up. Right. If you go into the original text of understanding what locks are what you call locking in the knowledge. Right. So men, what they would do is, women too, they would read a book, and as they read, they would twist their locks. That's locking in the knowledge. That's why they're called locks. So that was the original purpose of our hair, was dreadlocks, is locking it in. So that's a part of our culture. Women put braids in their head, which became culturally effective in slavery as road maps. Yeah. So the women would braid their hair, and the men would look at the top of their head and say, that's the road map for freedom.
Shut up.
I never knew that. I never heard that thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow.
If you look in, I can't remember the name of that dance, but it's a dance down in South America, Quebra something. Capoeira, yeah. So when you see that dance, that was an actual fighting dance. So the slave masters would see the slaves dancing, and they'd be like, oh, they're just having a ball. But actually, they was training. They were training for fighting. Yeah. So it's a lot when you start looking at our culture on how we're very intelligent people. If you go back to our past, we start talking about great kings of our past.
Right.
We had kings. I can't, like right now, my brain is on, I ain't take my memory pill this morning. But we had kings back in the days when we were in power. When you look at if you look in the Bible, if you look at the Bible and you look at the map of what happened with religion, it's the very tip top of Africa and the very bottom of Europe. That's the Roman Empire. That was a stretch of all of the cavemen, because the original cavemen were white people. Ethiopia was down at the bottom, which is Mother Africa. You had Asia at the top. You also had a man named Hannibal, who was Russia.
Hannibal Lecter.
No, Hannibal. His name was Hannibal. Yeah, Hannibal was the man. Hannibal Lecter was the one that killing people. Yeah, he was an eater. Hannibal was the one that when Rome tried to attack him,
Right.
when the Europeans tried to attack him, he was the only man that could ride an elephant. The only man could ride an elephant. He was a black man. And when they tried to attack him, he came out the woodworks doing elephants. And he bombarded them. And they was, oh, we can't mess with him no more. They waited till he got older till they began to get him. One of the most recent kings that we had was Haile Selassie. Haile Selassie, yeah. And Haile Selassie, he kept Ethiopia intact. The Italians, the French, everybody attacked him. And he also had, he kept it to where once he got old, he couldn't fight anymore. That's when they attacked him, and then that's when they put Ethiopia into poverty.
Right.
That's when you start seeing the stuff on TV. We see the Ethiopians with the big bellies.
Right.
Yeah, starvation. Yeah. So we've always been the ones that everybody want to come after, just because of who we are. If we are to get our heads together, which I'm kind of jumping ahead right now, if we got our heads together, we'd be a powerful. If black people got their heads together, there would be no more poverty.
I was in a car accident, and the young man that fixed my car said the same exact thing, and he's Iranian. And he told me that when he was fixing my car, I was like, I know.
When that great king, I can't remember his name now. It's hard for me to remember him, but he's famous. He went when he was king of Egypt. He's one of the pharaohs of Egypt. He walked across Egypt into other lands, just throwing gold. He was a pharaoh, just throwing gold.
Yeah.
Just giving away gold.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, giving away gold. Right. He would not let people be poor. He didn't believe in poverty. We don't believe in poverty. If you go back to our ancestors, the reason why black women were considered nannies is because when the white man first came over here, they took their babies and they put their babies in a Native American's hands. The Native Americans slit the baby's throat. When you talk about the Spaniards or the Hispanics, when they put them in the Hispanics' arm, they threw the baby to the side. But when they gave it to that black woman, she nurtured that baby. She even breastfed that baby. Black women are nurturers, naturally.
Mansa Musa.
Yeah, that's his name. Yeah, yep. So naturally, our black women are nurturers. They give. If you notice, if you find a kind black woman, she will do anything she can to help you. That's why a lot of our black women are getting, like black men get over on them. You see a lot of black women, they got a lot of money, they're trying to take care of that young black man. Mm-hmm. And they'll bring that man, I'll take care of you, baby, I'll do whatever I can for you to help that man out. And most men, they like, man, I got me a sucker. I'm gonna run all over her. But again, that's, yes?
That is so true. That's why I'm black at heart.
Mm-hmm.
No, she's
You are. Yeah.
I've been blessed. I've been adopted by black family.
So I will honestly say this. So
Seriously, I just started going to the church, and I feel like I've been adopted by them. They're taking good care of me.
So if you go back to our history, before the Spaniards got here and did what they did to the original Mexicans, that was what we call the Mayans and the Incas.
Right.
Those were our cousins. The Olmecs, the Mayans, and the Incas all lived here together. The Aztecs were the ones who said, you know what, I'm not taking this no more. When they began killing off all the men in Mexico and raping all the women, the Aztecs were the ones that fought back. And so you start going to look at the Mexican-American War, the Mexican War. Look at Cinco de Mayo. Look up Cinco de Mayo. Just look it up. and see what Cinco de Mayo, what happened on Cinco de Mayo. It's not a Mexican Revolution Day. It's all about us.
Another thing I found out with what white people doing, like black babies, they would use them as bait.
For gators. So they can bring them in so they can get these alligator shoes.
Black babies are bait for alligators.
Yeah. Yeah. We're cruel. There are some cruel. If you look at, and I don't like talking about white people this way, but I will. When you look at their history, they were the cavemen. When you start looking at the history of cavemen, they were the white people. There weren't no black people that were cavemen. We were never cavemen. We've always been very wealthy and agricultural people. We've been smart people all of our lives. If you look at it, and if you go through their history, war started with them. Romans fighting against everybody. If you look at the wars, all the wars started with them. Even when you start looking in the Bible, these people fought because of religion. My religion is better than yours. But most black people, we like, I'm cool with you. Well, I don't want to fight for it. I got this land, you go make you some land, we can live together.
Right.
That's how we normally, that's our nature. But for some reason, when white people come out of them caves with their ungo bungo stuff, something wrong with them.
They was angry.
Yeah. So, when we start talking about the theories of intersectionality, it's always talking about that there's some social identity that examines how people establish themselves as being the predominant people in this land. When we look at this, you start seeing that there's people in this land can do whatever they want to. Here, right here, this is the Black Lives Matter movement. Look at all the police that are here.
Right.
This is when Trump lost. Did you see any police out there?
No.
They in different clothes.
They're there, yeah. Right. But you see how the force is there?
Right.
You got a line of police officers.
They're noticeable. They're not.
And then you got the George Floyd down in Cassie the Cop.
Yeah, This is the blacks that he just got angry. Most of us did. We got angry. We're just out here having a peaceful protest, and you guys are assaulting us on a peaceful protest. This was not a peaceful protest.
At all.
They destroyed the U.S. government property.
Right.
If you look right here, this is what police do to us as black people. This man, I forgot what he did. He didn't do nothing bad, but the police arrested him and made him walk to the police station beside the horse. George Floyd getting killed. This black man, 3 cops on him. He's almost getting choked to death. Look at this white guy right here.
Okay, I'll tell you something really a trip. Remember the incident happened in South Carolina where a white guy went to church and those people? You know what the first thing they did with that white guy? They took him to Burger King before they took him to jail.
Right. Look at this here. You see this one?
Right.
I wish I had one of the Black Panthers back in the 70s when we had our guns, because we armed ourselves because we were tired of police brutality. We armed ourselves and said, we're tired of you beating up on us. We're just out here protesting. Y'all want to come out here and beat us, so we got our guns.
That's
This
why
man,
Ronald Reagan, when he was governor, he outlawed in California. The Black Panthers, they went to Sacramento.
Yeah.
He was giving a speech one time.
yeah, I'm not a Ronald Reagan fan either. I'm not. Most white people get mad at me when I say that, because they like, Ronald Reagan, he was the greatest. No, he wasn't. He was the greatest to y'all.
Right.
He didn't do nothing for us as black people. He had I remember when I was going to school, and I'm looking at the time, make sure I got you, Jay. When he came to our school, Nancy Reagan did that say nope to dope and other drugs. Remember that? Dare? Yeah. So they came to our school. I was going to Lauren Miller at the time. And they pulled up in this beautiful Corvette. Right. Pulled up in there, and the bear come up there and says, say nope to dope and other drugs. Right. And walked on, and that was it. The whole, just repeat after me, nope to dope and other drugs. Right. And we like, you got this stupid bear up here, and we like kids, nope to dope, other drugs, nope to dope, other drugs. We looking on our streets, all the drugs is being brought into our community.
From them.
When I was a little kid, I remember this to this day. I was looking, and I went over to, because Freeway Rick was doing what they was doing. I remember this package. It was about as big as my laptop, thick, and it had a seal on it. And it had this white kid's face on it. I said, whose kid is that? And then he told me, he said, that was the son of the man that we just bombed a couple of days ago. The drugs start coming into our country after Ronald Reagan seeked war onto another country.
Wow.
Yeah. So when we start talking about what's going on in this country, you know, a lot of times the infiltration of all the stuff that's going on has happened to destroy us.
Yeah.
They want to destroy us as black people.
And they bring a lot of dope through the Pacific Ocean, and they catch that little bit. But 9 times out of 10, that big boat is around that corner.
Yeah, exactly. Just to show that the CIA said, we got that one right there. We got that one. But they didn't get the ones that is coming to our neighborhoods. They're getting the ones going to their neighborhoods.
Right.
Okay, one time, they said that they brought crack here, or started crack for the Contra war going on in Central America.
Right.
But this is one thing I feel, and a lot of people get mad when I say this. If someone's selling drugs, if there's a liquor store here, you make the choice to buy that. Okay? I had a crack house next to me. I made a choice not to go over there and buy that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's hard for me to understand that, well, they brought crack, they brought drugs, okay, but wait a minute now. We got a choice not to buy that stuff.
So let me tell you what happened. Let me tell you what happened with a guy, and I can't stand it. He dead to this day, and God forgive me. I'm gonna leave it at that. The way I feel about him. So his own brother, his brother, he was selling dope. He was selling crack. He broke the crack. He had put the crack into the pot, sealed it, everything up. He was selling it. So his brother was, he didn't really want to deal with it. His brother stayed away from him, but he didn't like his brother. So what he did was he took the cocaine, he laced it up in his cigarette, and gave him a cigarette. His brother went off. He was sprung. Oh, he killed himself, smoking that crack cocaine. But he got hit again. Yeah. He's like, man, bro, what you put in that cigarette? He said, man, here you go. Gave him the crack. I don't know how many years. He didn't live long after that because he was just free basing all the time. Free basing. The family members a lot of times are selfish individuals. And these selfish individuals will put their own family members on crack. A lot of times you even have black men, and I remember this, especially in this job that I have now. I ran into a guy that does this. You have black men who are pimping their mothers and their sisters. So it's a lot of times this is black men. I go back to the Adam syndrome. We're so screwed up in the head, so we want to be so powerful that we'll do anything to make ourselves look a certain way.
They say these girls on Long Beach Boulevard, they say it's the gangs behind this.
Yeah, it's not one pimp, it's the whole gang. And they're black gangs, pimping our black women.
I mean, I can't believe but they're winning. I mean, this.
Your imagination is gone. You don't need black tail no more. You ain't got to look at porno no more. Just walk down Long Beach Boulevard to Figueroa. Yeah, Black Tail's an old porno magazine back in the days. That's back when I was a little boy. That's what I had. That was my first time seeing a naked woman. My second time seeing a naked black woman.
My first Playboy back then, right?
I ain't seen no Playboy either. Yeah, white women. I'm talking about black women.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Black Tail. They used to have bullet wounds and everything else up in there. Oh, so here are the symptoms when we start talking about intergenerational trauma. Shame, heightened sense of vulnerability and helplessness, low self-esteem. We disassociate each other with each other. We're hypervigilant. We have these unwanted thoughts and images and impulses and urges that occur spontaneously and that can actually be produced by external stimuli. So that means whenever someone says something to you, you're ready to react. You don't even think. You just off point. Yep.
That's me.
Yeah. A lot of us are like that because you've been stressed out for so much that there's nothing here to help me. There's nobody here to help me, so I'm just.
I chased the lady to the police station.
Man, hey, you catch me now because my knees is bad. I mean, I give up. You have relationship attack. You have relationship issues. So children are not really attached to their parents. And like me, when I grew up, I had a very solid hatred towards black people because everybody that did something to me was black. The gangs jumped me all the time was black. The police officer that harassed me was black. But the people that treated me good were other nationalities. So it was hard for me to really love another black person. My dad, the Michelob Kid, good man, but the Michelob Kid used to whoop my behind. I loved my mother. That's why I love black women, because my mother was just my goddess. She was a goddess to me, and my grandmother was a goddess. Auntie Ruth was all the black women in my life were goddesses because they loved Kevin, and they just pampered me.
Right.
They would talk. I would talk to any black woman. When I was a little boy, I could talk to older black women. That's why I was in love. You better wake up, woman. Look like you've been smoking on one. You got difficulty regulating aggression, and then you have the extreme reactivity to stress because you're always being discriminated against. So your body is fulfilled with stress. It is stressed out all the time. So how can we break the cycle? This is the picture I want to tell you all about. This is the Olmec head I was talking about.
Oh, okay.
These are the statues that they have of the Olmecs. This is down in Central America. So these are the original people. If you look at the full lips, the big nose.
That nose.
That's us.
Some pretty lips.
Yeah.
That's where all the noses are out, or they,
Yeah, that's why everybody trying
they
to
take the nose
nose
out,
and
big
big lips.
sure you can see them.
And that's what they did in Egypt.
In Egypt,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
All the noses off. Yeah.
Face off, you know.
Yeah.
Ain't that something?
Yeah. Yeah. And these are our aunts. These are our cousins right here. These are the Mayans. Or the Mayans and Incas. One of the two. I can't remember which ones these were. But if you look at their faces,
Right.
we're closely related. We're closely related. Before the Spaniards came over here and did what they did to Mexico, this is what the original people look like.
Okay, what's the difference between the Mayans, Aztec, Incas? What's the difference?
So Mayans come from an island. It was called the Mayan Island. And the Incas was the ones that, they were here with us as Olmecs. And then as you start looking at the interactions between us, you also had the Asiatics who came across the ice bridge. And they began to interact with us. So the Asiatics, which are the Japanese, the Chinese, and all them, the early ones, if you talk to a lot of those real ones, those real Japanese men, those real Asian women, they will really have a conversation with you about how strong we were as people. I learned a lot about the Great Wall of China. It used to be a 7 or 8 foot black man, 8 foot tall black man on the Great Wall of China. But somehow or another it disappeared. I don't know what happened to it, but it disappeared. Yeah. You go in our history, if you go throughout our history, there's a lot. If you go into these, like a lot of the pyramids have been tainted with, because a lot of us were in those pyramids. Our pictures, our portraits are in those pyramids. If you go to the Roman Catholic, if you go to Rome, where okay, Kevin, say it right. I almost called him the wrong word. Where the Pope is at. Yeah, the Vatican. No, I was going to call him something else, but I got to watch myself because I'm working for the county. Where the Pope is at.
Right.
If you go down in the Vatican, you're going to find all of our artifacts. All of our artifacts. The original Christ, what he looked like. The original Bible. The original Bible, what we got right now, that Bible we have right now, it's called
King James.
it was developed by King James to control his people. That's why it's called the King James Version. So King James said, I want this Bible, I want you guys to get together, put this Bible together so we can control our people. Yeah.
When I was in Panama, stationed there, a lot of the churches there, they have black Jesus in the churches.
Yeah, sure do.
It was so strange, going down Central America, you see black Jesus in the churches.
Mm-hmm.
And like they had people like Indian type people, they had no hang up about it.
No.
Just go, they didn't hang up about it.
Yeah, because the original Jesus, we keep on calling ourselves black. We were just dark-skinned people. We're just dark-skinned people. Because if you think about black, that's black. This is black.
Right.
So, and the reason why, and the reason why you hear the word black and white is because of economics. Think about it. When you have a business, when you're doing bad, what are you in? The black.
Right.
When you're doing good, you're in the.
White.
So they began to do that with us. The white means you're doing good, black means you're doing bad.
But another thing that's funny about color skin, a lot of the people,
Hey, can I say something? Sorry. to interrupt. Oh, actually, go ahead. You go first. Finish your thought.
no, go on.
Well, okay. But I have to cut in where you're saying that
Mm-hmm.
because black is also fancy and elegant.
True?
Because I used to work in banquets, and so
Yeah.
we have to give ourselves.
Props. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not all negative.
No, it's not.
They try to associate black with negativity.
Yeah.
That's
So if you look at Disney, check out Disney. When you see a bad guy like Lion King,
Right.
you had the one Lion King. He was bright, beautiful, colorful. The bad king was dark.
Right.
When you go to Princess and the Frog, which I really hate, Princess and the Frog, you're gonna make the first black princess a daggone frog. But anyway, you got everything was the color was all light,
Right.
but the bad guy was black.
Right.
You watch Disney. I don't know. I watch this Disney,
Yeah,
the new Disney, not Walt Disney, but Disney. Yeah.
I like, I don't know if you guys ever saw Cry Freedom with Denzel Washington.
You love Denzel, don't you?
No, I don't love Denzel, but I like when he played, I like when he acted as Stephen Biko.
Hello.
When he was in the court,
Uh-huh.
and he was talking to the judge, and he says, you always try to associate black with something bad. Black sheep, black cat, with something negative.
Yeah.
And then the judge says, well, why do you guys call yourselves people black? You're more brown than black. He said, well, why do you guys call yourselves white? You're more pink than white. You gotta see that movie if
Yes.
you wanna see
what's the
where
name of it?
Stephen Biko shut them down. Oh man. It's a Cry Freedom with Denzel Washington. Watch it.
Go ahead, Wanda. Go ahead.
I was just noticing how, we talk about color of skin.
Uh-huh.
A lot of people from India, they have a caste system. And it's funny how they treat the dark ones because they're dark different
Sure do.
than the other.
Yeah.
And even, when my wife was going to USC, they had a lot of Indian students there.
Uh-huh.
They didn't want to have nothing to do with the black people. And their skin was darker than yours.
Yeah. Crazy as the road is, huh? After he got hit by a car.
When I went to Alabama, because that's where my dad and them are from, as a little girl, they teased me because I was light-skinned and didn't believe that my daddy was my daddy. I was like, well, who is he then?
Right, yeah.
Tell me who my daddy is.
Who is my daddy? Yeah.
Yes.
So let me get y'all back on this one. I got to get Jason out of here because I know he's looking at me and he winking at me a few minutes ago. So we need to build ourselves. When we want to break the cycle, the biggest thing is, I put this one up here because I like to show the color that we have when it comes to us as black people and how beautiful and how we come as a people, how we come together. If we come together, how much joy we can bring to each other. And that's where we start having this emotionally supportive relationship. We need to remove our emotions out of the equation. Emotions means that I care about you. When something upsets me, the first thing you need to do is, what just upset me? What was that trigger? Not reacting off the emotion, but react off what has caused you to feel this way. That's the start. I do that with my daughter a lot. When she's saying something to me, you have to listen to everything that person says, because if not, you're going to hear what they say. Like I do with my wife trying to interrupt me in the middle of a 49er game, we winning. And she come and start talking to me like, listen, I heard you say the girls is going down the street. You didn't hear everything I just said. No, I just heard the girls going down the street. I didn't hear. Right. So we got to hear everything that person is saying. And that's when you'll be able to understand what they're trying to say to you. You can regurgitate. That's what communication is. Communication is regurgitating what a person says to you. So let me understand what you're saying. So when y'all was going down the street, the guy jumped out in front of you and you almost hit him. Or you just hit a dog. Now I hear the whole story that you just said. But then you can start having interchangeable conversations, dialogue, right? Family.
People have to be willing. Both sides have to be willing.
You are, I'm talking 367% right. Yes, both sides have to be that way. The person, yeah.
Bouncing off the wall, right?
Yeah, one person can be and be like, okay, shut up for a minute. I can get all that yet. Let me get some of this in. Family origin to the bond. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit more, is understanding that family origin. Who are we? Who are we as a people? Who is my daddy? Where's my grandfather come from? Understand this family bond. Social support networks. What that means is that you build organizations. This is what we talked about last week when we talked about immigration. That social support network is, even though we are black people and we're struggling, it does not stop us from to be able to understand what the other people are going through. Because what happens is that when we begin to talk to these other people about what they're going through, you'll be like, oh, dang, y'all went through that coming across the border? Yeah, imagine what we've been doing. You know, I had a Spanish guy come to me. He said, "You black people have been here all this time, and y'all never went nowhere." He said, "We've done more than you guys have in the short time we've been here." I said, "Yeah, the reason why is because y'all don't have nobody coming up against y'all. We've had people come up against us generation after generation after generation. Y'all coming across the border, setting up shop. And then y'all got somewhere to go back home to send your money to where you can develop more of establishment and then bring that money back over here. We ain't got no home. We stuck right here. I can't send no money to Africa. If we go to Africa, I don't even know who gonna get it." And
Kevin said, I don't know who's gonna get it.
And then you got self-inventory. That literally and when I say self-inventory, is looking at me. Me. I can't look at Paul and judge Paul. I got too much to be judging Kevin for. So when you look at Kevin has to be like, okay, you got a problem when you look at a woman with a short skirt on. You need to stop thinking like that, Kevin. You know, when you got some money in your hand, you need to sit down and budget yourself, Kevin. As I start dealing with these things in my head, I don't have time to look at nobody else. I have to take self-inventory of myself.
And another word for self-inventory is introspection, and that's examining one's own thoughts and feelings.
I didn't know you was that educated.
Can I get a copy of this?
Sure, yeah. So this is something that psychologists use when it comes to helping people when it comes to psychotherapy. This is what I talked about a long time ago with psychotherapy, how psychotherapy is very effective when it comes to dealing with trauma. So what they do is that they use what is called a genogram. And what a genogram does is it breaks down the family tree. So it talks about, well, who was Judy? She was a good wife, good mother. This is what she did as a mother. When you start looking at your family, like my dad, I could put on here me, Kevin, me, Terrence, Sheila, and then I put my mother and my father. My father, he was a great guy. He was a business owner. Even though he worked for the city, he worked 2 jobs. I used to think he was Jamaican because he'd come home in the evening and be back out in the morning going to work. I don't know when he slept, but he's a great man. But he was an alcoholic. I can put that here. And as you begin to go down through your genealogy, you begin to look at some of the positive things that happens in your family's life. My grandfather on my mother's side was a gardener. He would get up every morning and garden. My grandmother was a great cook. As you begin to look at your family, you look at focus on the positive things. It's very easy to focus on the negative, but if you look at the positive, you can find influence to be able to help you to raise the next generation.
I think Ancestry use something like this to find your ancestry.
But you're right, but when you start looking at the ancestors, you want to start looking at who that person was,
Right.
the positive sides.
You know, Kevin, it's true because I think about my grandmother and uncle. They were alcoholics, but I never looked at them as alcoholics.
Mm-mm.
My uncle would come over to our staggering down the street. But I never thought like, this man, I'm getting drunk. To me, that was my uncle. That's
Yeah.
I said, it was good. I said, my grandma, she would drink all the time. I never thought till I got older, oh, they were alcoholics.
Like Earthquake used to say, Earthquake talk about his uncle, he said, one thing you want to do, if you want to know everybody's business, you give Uncle so-and-so to drink. He going to tell you everybody's business.
Yeah, they got a lot to say.
Yeah. And that's the good stuff. It's like, hey, if I give him something to drink, we gonna know everything that's going on in the family. You know that boy over there ain't his daughter. That ain't his child. What was you gonna say? I love you to mess you up. So how do we heal? It needs to begin within the home. Mothers and fathers need to heal within ourselves. When we're raising these children up, whatever we're going through, we need to stop and evaluate ourselves, self-evaluation.
But it's always good that 2 parents in the house of the one. Right?
It's the most important thing in the world to have 2 parents.
Yes, but if you don't, it's always good to.
You got to do the best you can with what you got.
What you gonna say, Miss Joe? No, you're right. It's sad. Yeah, and this is where we need to start. That's where the healing comes in. Is that we need to, men, I can only say this for men, we got to get out of our atomistic mentality. Men love to blame things on somebody else for what we've done wrong. And 9 times out of 10, it's that woman we're going to blame. So we have to stop that.
Can I say something to that? Well, ask the question. He's no longer here. But in the midst of, like you said, us being able to communicate effectively to be able to raise our children, I was having trouble with this young man. And he remarried. I even apologized so we can be a unit for this young man. Mm-hmm. And that was the craziest thing ever.
So the reason why is because he had, see, a lot of times, when my first wife, I will totally admit this. I was not a great husband with my first wife. I was not compassionate. And I'm going to be honest with y'all. Forgive me when I say this, ladies, but I was only in that relationship for one thing. I was 19 years old, young, dumb, and full of cum. That's where I was at. So all I'm looking for is when I come home, I don't want to talk, no nothing. Let's bump uglies. That's it. All I'm looking for is bumping uglies.
That's real.
Right. That's how I was. She was looking for something else. You know what I mean? So she was looking for that man. I'm just looking for spread them and let's go.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's what we have
It's
to.
best to get married when you're a little bit older, though.
Did you ever grow up in that process or something?
No, we grew apart because we was together for 3 years, 3 children, 3 years. And she was a great mother. I give her applause. She's a great woman. She's remarried again, just as I am. But we never had a chance to grow because when we first got married, I left and went to Desert Storm. So she was, you left me. And I didn't understand that as a young man. What you mean I left you? The government told me to leave. What am I supposed to do? Tell them not to go? But I didn't understand as a young man. I was being rebellious against her because I was rebellious against my parents. So now I'm rebellious in this relationship. So now she's like, well, you left me. She's being real with me. You left me. What else am I supposed to do? You're supposed to be my wife. That's what you're supposed to do when I come home. But no, that's not how this works. There's a two-way street. What's her name? I found love on a two-way street. Yeah, there's a two-way street. When I come this way, you come this way, and we meet up together. And we're going to pass each other and come back again. We got to keep this going. I was one way. Let's do it this way. And it didn't work. It doesn't work that way. Yes, sir.
I always told growing up, if a woman respects her father, you have a good wife. If a son respects his mother, 9 times out of 10, you have a good husband.
You're right, but
and you marry when you get a little bit older. You don't kind of marry when you're young.
You're young, no, because I was not ready to get married at 19 years old. I was not ready to get married. I was still fighting with my father.
Right.
I was still fighting with the streets. I was fighting with the public. I had no respect for any other man. I love women. Oh, I love me some women. A woman come, hey girl, everybody knows. I see a woman, I'm gonna talk to a woman before I talk to a man. I'll stop talking to a man to have a conversation with a woman. To this day.
Right.
I just love women that much. But again, that was as a 19-year-old, that wasn't good. I needed to learn how to have conversations with men, with women, and not have anything else in my head but that conversation. And that's where my healing came in. I had to learn this. Huh? Yeah, I'll send you a PDF of this one. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's always good that when you make a mistake or do something wrong, you realize later that you made a mistake.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we do things wrong, we don't realize it.
Right. Mm-mm. No.
On this young man's deathbed, we couldn't even go and pray with him. I just wanted to go say sorry. Sorry for what? Just sorry. You know what I mean? Because we got a son and a daughter and 2 grandbabies. Like, you're now not here to help us help them. Like, and my dad is not here, so there aren't really no men in the house to help me with this young man. And I don't want to lose him to the streets.
Mm-mm. And it takes it, and it's gonna with your son. I don't want to say his name because I got this on my lips. So because this is getting recorded, I'm putting it on to show people how we do these workshops. But with him, the biggest thing that we have to learn how to do is involve him with other positive men. That's hard in South Central Los Angeles because you got so much influence. Like when I was growing up, dude come around. Now back in the days, we had the Mercedes Benz with the gold. He looked good, man. He got money. Yeah, the pimp knocking on, hey, what's happening, girl? How you doing, baby? He pulling out wides. That's the same thing going on today. Money is the root of all evil. Money is what influences us to be who we are today. Money pushes us money will have you selling your own daughter into the streets, So money is what is influencing us to be the evil people we are today. So we got to be careful with that.
Money also attracts a lot of friends.
Yeah. I won't say the other thing I was going to say. But we want to construct our homes in our individual selves. I'm almost done, Jason. Improve our family communication, reduce family conflict, and teach our children to resistance skills. Resistance skills means when somebody tells you, hey, man, I got the dope. Just going to make some money with this dope. Our boys need to understand that, yes, Yeah, you know, what part of the N and the O don't you understand? But at the same time, this ain't the way I want to make no money. Because quick money is going, as fast as the money coming to my hands, as fast as it's going to go out. So if we start teaching our kids this, you know, you want to plant seeds and watch this thing grow. We got to teach our children this, allowing them to have stronger roots in how we're developing them. Versus,
if you teach people right about money, it helps you with mathematics, how to manage money and stuff like that.
yeah.
And with me and my little situation, we was at church almost 7 days a week, and his dad was a drug dealer. So I'm fighting, and I'm like, my God. And you talk to him, very, very smart.
Intelligent. But remember, it says in the Bible, the devil is in the church.
Yep.
Right.
He hanging out. He chilling right there with his legs crossed. And he know more about the Bible than we do.
And my son sings the Bible.
Yeah.
Give up and do his sermons and all that. So I'm just like, yeah, it's just crazy.
Yeah, you can quote all day long. I know people right now.
People quote the Bible and stuff, but
They don't live it.
yeah, they don't live. That's what I was getting ready to say.
And that's what was going on with his dad, ordained preacher. And you showing him by going to buy him gold teeth.
Most of the time, you know, you have a good person, whether it be male or female, if they truly respect their parent. Because every relationship outside of man deteriorates, starts in the home with the family.
Right. Yeah, that's
If
what.
God gives you family members and sisters and brothers, you can't get along with them. Every other relationship deteriorates.
Yeah, society starts in the home. Correct. Yeah.
That's the way I was raised.
So healing generational trauma. You can roll out if you want, Jason, because it's 2:00. Okay. So healing and generational trauma. It starts with identifying and discussing the impacts of trauma. Literally discussing it. What has caused you to have this issue that you're having? Look at resiliency, self-resiliency, and believing in oneself. Avoid past mistakes, learning from your mistakes. My father told me as a kid, he said, he or she who never makes a mistake will never prosper. It is he or she who learns from those mistakes that will be able to prosper. So we have to learn from our mistakes. You're going to trip.
Somebody can learn from their mistakes. And
Too proud.
I take care.
Jason?
The United States government learned from the past. We have a better country.
We still got them old people up in there that don't want to learn nothing. Look at the one.
Diane Feinstein, she just passed away.
You know
in
what?
office.
I have nothing but high respect for that lady. I cried when she died.
Right.
Because out of every, Maxine Waters, Holly Mitchell, all them women that's in office, when I wrote them about what's going on with me as a veteran, none of them, the minute I wrote her, I got a letter within a week. And my VA benefits was taken care of. I love that woman. I love her. She took care of me. And then when I was out here fighting, advocating for people, if I wrote that woman something that was going on with somebody, she wrote me right back. That woman, I have the utmost highest respect for her.
You know, it may not have been her, it may have been the staff. You know, she just had good people.
But
There's good people with her, you know.
yeah.
It had to be.
Maxine Waters.
To be able for him to get that letter back.
Maxine, when I walked in her office, that woman that was up in her office looking at me like I was a piece of meat. When I walked in Diane Feinstein's office, them people was, how can I help you? And she had a diverse group of people. I respect her. All the other ones, yeah, people like her. So when we start talking about different things, we want to talk to our children, let them understand that racism is real. Racism is real. Yes, racism is real. But what we want to do is we want to allow our children to understand that these labels that come from racism are only based off a person's belief. Racism is based off ignorance, point blank. You're going to hate somebody because of their race based off what you believe. That's a very ignorant way to deal with somebody, because race does not have anything to do with that human being. Everybody's a human being, and we have to start teaching our children this. Don't look at a person's skin. Don't look at how a person acts. Learn that person. Learn who you're talking to. Get rid of these stereotypes. Get rid of these labels. What's your name again? Paul. I know Paul. Paul is different than anybody other man that I know, because Paul is who Paul is. He's not the same as the next man because he's Paul. You know, we have to start learning this, teaching our children this. Learn who that person is. If somebody else call that person a label, Don't use that label. Now, when I was growing up, we used to use labels so the police wouldn't arrest us. So I knew Fat Rat and all the big homies. Because we had to use those names because if the police pull us over, what's his real name? I don't know his real name. So that's how we grew up. We had to learn our nicknames so that when the police pulled us over, I don't know his real name. My name was Backpack and Schoolboy. And that's how they knew me. That's Backpack, that's Schoolboy. What's his real name? I don't know. We call him Backpack and Schoolboy. That way the police won't harass us and they won't label us. Because once they know your name, they're going to label you. They're going to call you a gang member. So, no one understands our pathways that lead to replicating patterns of violence can actually interrupt what's going on in our society. If we understand the pathways to violence, we can understand how to disrupt that pathway back to violence. It's changing our mindset. We as men, we as black men, we as black women, we need to change how we see things, how we view things. I'm going to get y'all out of here in a few minutes. Okay. And we need to address you have a good one now. We need to address present day traumas that relate to what originated from the original trauma. We have to do this. In order for us to address this, what we need to start doing to our children is we need to change the way we talk to our children. The number one thing that we need to start telling our children is, like I told these other kids before, they was like, I put them in a group of young men. I got them in a group. And they said, hey, I said, what do you guys want to be? I want to be a basketball player. I want to make $8 million. How much money you want to make? I want to make $8 million. How much you want to make? I want to make $10 million. How much you want to make? I want to make $7 million. Okay, I want y'all to take that. Cool. Beautiful. You want to be a basketball player. But this is how you change the child's mind. You make 8, you make 10, you make 7. So the rest of the team, you're talking about $7.5 billion. Somebody got to pay y'all, right?
Right.
Who writing that check?
The owner of the team.
So why don't you want to be the owner instead of just being the person receiving the check?
Can I say something to
Yes.
that? I did a little illustration the same way you did with my son in front of the therapist. My son wanted to be a trash truck driver. I said, why would you want to be the trash truck driver when you can own a company and have your own people out there picking up the trash?
Mm-hmm.
The therapist told me, oh, you are so mean. Why you just didn't listen to your son? I said, I heard everything he said.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to ask him, why wouldn't he want to be the one to write the check opposed to receiving that little check that they're going to get?
And that's the problem that we have as black people. See, we always have people who are trying to interfere with us on elevating ourselves because they want us to stay down here.
That's what the difference between most Americans and foreigners. They want to create their own businesses where most Americans just want a job.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's the mindset that's been given to us. It's when you go to school, back in the days, you went to school to be a blue-collar worker. Now when you go to school, you're being educated to be a teacher. A lot of kids don't know this. Our schools are teaching you to be teachers. That's why you only get math, English, all these disciplines. If you're looking at every single class you go through is a discipline. Nothing teaches you a trade. Nothing teaches you how to balance your checkbook. Nothing teaches you how to actually survive in this country.
Well, they take an accounting class.
But that's only when you get
In college, yeah.
That's not what they're teaching our children today.
No, yeah. And that's what a lot of times when you go to if you go to Asia, those kids are learning how to balance their checkbooks in Asia. You go to the other countries, you see this. Their education, when they come here, they're far ahead of us. Yeah.
And they can count without going to that phone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they got the phone
Yeah.
now. I'm like the calculator.
We old school. I still use the calculator. Sorry. But we need
Phone got a calculator on it too.
They do, yeah. But I'm just old school. I like that you use one device for one thing. Yeah. But we need to change. We need to change our mindset. We really need to. We need to teach our children, instead of being basketball players, be team owners. Instead of being trash men, own a trash company. Instead of being a construction worker, own a construction company.
Well, that's what I like about President. That's what I like about President Biden, because he showed black people that you could be president. Before then, we had no concept that a black man
Obama?
could ever be president.
That was the one thing he did do. He stepped up there and he showed you how to look good as a black man.
Right.
But teaching your child that they could be the president starts at home too.
Yeah.
I mean, like I was telling you about the young man telling my son he could be the president. Out the womb he was telling him that. So I just want my son to make better decisions.
When I see kids now, a lot of people will tell you, when I see the kid, I'll be like, I say it, and they may not even be there. I'll be like, that's the next president. That's the next mayor.
Well, don't you think, when you see these kids today, they look at the basketball players and so forth, this is what they see.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they think, because there's money involved.
Exactly.
And so the young kid smaller kids say, that's what I wanna be.
Mhm.
Because number one, he's real popular, he got the money, he got the house, the cars and all that. That's all that's what they know, that's what they think success is.
And that's where we as parents need to change our kids' mentality.
That's where
Because
that's
when
the difference between Muslims and the ordinary parent. Because Muslim children, when they're real young, maybe like 2, 3 years old, they exposed them to all that stuff, ball players, to trash pickup, to all kind of different companies.
what I was going to say is on this one. So, like I did with my second to the youngest daughter. She wanted to be a singer. I said, "Why you want to be a singer? You can't go nowhere. Everybody gonna see you. You can't do nothing." She said, "What you mean, Daddy?" I said, "How many producers do you know that are out there?" She said, "I don't know no producers." I said, "Those are the ones that make all the money." You need to get behind the scenes. Writers, every time that song is sung, that writer makes more money than that singer.
But Mickey, how about a doctor? We need black doctors, we need black dentists, we need black surgeons.
Exactly.
Black lawyers
We want
and
somebody
stuff.
that can relate to us.
Right.
Yeah, and you're right, Joe. That's what we need to start teaching our kids. This is the career path y'all need to go. If you talking about money,
Right.
you know, how many I see doctors running around Lamborghinis.
Right.
Black doctors?
And
Yeah.
whether they know it or not, you make more money playing baseball than you do basketball.
You sure do, and it's less stress.
And soccer. Because my grandbaby, yeah, he's really good. I mean, at everything he does, he's just shy.
But we just, like I said, we gotta take our children and make them think different.
Yeah.
You know, because most of them, like you said, they see that on TV, and you're like, okay, LeBron, yeah, he makes a lot of money, but LeBron can't go nowhere. But how many times?
A doctor, he's gotta go to a doctor, his son just went to a doctor and had surgery, you know. So why not be a surgeon?
Now take this now take that one. They say like LeBron's son had to go to the doctor. How much do you think LeBron had to pay for that doctor to take care of his son? Right. So who knows what that doctor looked like? And that doctor rolling around in the Rolls Royce, chilling, living off in Beverly Hills somewhere. He ain't got to worry about when he go to the grocery store, because nobody know who he is.
I go to the doctors like every month, and they, like you said, they always white and stuff. Very few times. When I was real young, we used to have a black physician in the family. Yeah.
No. I had a black doctor. She was a lady, and she moved up to San Francisco.
Right.
Because she went with her practice. She just going up.
And I think
That's like when I was growing up.
passed away. He was a black doctor off of Western and Vernon, and I believe he passed away.
Yeah.
That's the way it was when I was growing up. My dad had a lot of physicians that he went to, like doctors, mechanics and stuff, and they was all black. But they got older, and like you said, they passed away and stuff. I see you in the young ones.
My baby girl was born from a black, I can't remember his name. He's a black doctor. He delivered her. Wealthy. Good man.
Mine too, Compton, Dr. Hemsley.
But most of all the black people you see now are either ball players or movies or actors and singers. So you have a lot of young black boys that want to be rappers and stuff, 'cause that's all they see is them making money and stuff.
Here's another thing I say. A lot of people say that you can't make it. And, you know, I had somebody tell me that I can't be a owner of a basketball team. I said, that's not true. I want you to look at one person only, Ice Cube. Ice Cube.
Ice Cube.
Ice Cube went against the grain. He got 3-on-3 basketball. That 3-on-3 basketball, he took all of the old players, brought them over there. He went and had the last championship game he had was over in London.
Oh, okay.
He is very smart.
Making billions of dollars.
He's not falling for the okey doke.
I didn't know about him.
Yeah,
Yes, we are.
yeah.
If we use half the brain, Dr.
I didn't know about Ice Cube, but I knew about. I didn't know about Ice Cube, but I knew about Michael Jordan because he walked the Wizard.
Well, look at nobody talk about him right now. Magic Johnson.
Right.
He went from the Dodgers to the Washington Commanders.
Right.
We got.
You don't own the Dodgers no more?
He still owns them. He still got partial ownership of them, but he went on to put his money somewhere else. And that's where Mike Johnson is one of the people that we can look at. Magic Johnson got with the Lakers, and the Lakers do not allow their people to fail.
Right.
Bus, when he was alive, no.
Right.
When you come as a Laker and you stay with him, Jerry Buss gonna take very good care of you, and he gonna surround you like a Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban said one thing that I caught. Mark Cuban said, "I'm not smart, but I'm a billionaire." You know why I'm a billionaire? Because I surround myself around with people smarter than me.
That's right, because that's how you learn. You don't know him by sticking with the
Dummies. No.
My son is like that.
Yeah, I got a lot of.
Hang out with the big dog.
yes,
You have to be.
Fake it
You
till
have
you
to
make
know
it.
somebody know more than you.
I do that. That's how I am. Yeah. I got friends right now that call me, oh, Kev, you a sellout. You don't do this. You don't hang out with us no more. I'm like, bro, because y'all still selling smoking weed. Well, I don't want to sit there and smoke weed for the rest of my, I'm 53 years old. I'm been smoking weed all my life.
Are they still game banging some of them?
No, the ones that game making dead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my friends are game making dead. Yeah, that's dead to me, yeah. Because you ain't see the day of light no more.
Right.
Yeah, so you dead, you done. The only thing you doing is if you got a girlfriend, it ain't no woman. So, bye-bye. So, but let me get y'all out of here because it's almost 2:30. I know some of y'all need to go. Ariel, she looking at me like, man, hurry up. So, one of the things we need to do is that us as black people, we have been stuck in the trenches for so long that we need to seek help. And we need to find specialists who deal with the situations that we're dealing with. Yes, there are not enough black therapists out here. There are not enough people of color that are therapists. There are not enough people who understand what we're going through as therapists. That's one of the reasons why I said we need to change our mindset. To teach our children, yes, you need to be a doctor. Yes, you need to be a therapist. This is some of the things that we're doing right now with the Department of Mental Health.
Before you end the class, you gotta tell everyone what you wrote in your book. It's only been a few minutes and that kid. I like that.
Oh, I done wrote so much now, I can't remember now.
About the kid that he was playing with the dove. You put it in his face.
What I say? I got this in my head now, so I can't even think back to my book. Oh, okay. So I had a joke, and I.
By the way, everybody, he is not only a very good coach, writer, and he makes us laugh and everything. He's one of the best multi-millionaire by fate writer.
Thank you. Thank you, Wanda. Thank you. So.
Buy as many books from him now before he becomes rich.
Right.
Yeah, you can buy his book on Amazon.
Yeah.
Intergenerational.
It's not that pricey.
It's only $10. Yeah.
No. It's only if you buy two, one for you, one for your best friend, can you get a deal? Two for 30.
Okay. Wanda, yeah, that's Wanda right now.
Yeah, she bought one already.
Yeah. So the joke she's talking about is, it says, that's what I usually do in the first part of the class, but I want to get y'all through it. So it's this little boy, it's a joke I heard. So the little boy was in the kitchen with his mother, and they were making a cake. So the little boy poured flour over himself. He said, Mama, look, I'm a white boy. So Mama smacked him. She said, get out of here, go upstairs and tell your daddy that. So the little boy runs upstairs. He says, hey, daddy, look, I'm a white boy. Daddy smacks him and said, boy, what's wrong with you? Don't be acting like that. So the little boy, he kind of was upset. He said, go downstairs and tell your grandma that. So now he got hit by his mom and his daddy. So he like, man, this is not cool. So he go downstairs, loping and stuff. So then he heads on downstairs. He says, Grandma, look, I'm a white boy. Bah! The grandma slaps him upside the head. She said, get out of here, boy. Go back in there with your mama. So he walks back in the mama, and he says, he walks in there with his mama, and he looks at her for a minute, and the mama said, now, you acting like you're a white boy. What have you learned from this? He said, I only been a white boy for 5 minutes, and I already hate black people. Yeah, I usually do that one at the beginning of when I do these presentations to dampen the mood. Yeah.
I was reading that book on my saddest evening. I was having a whole lot of pain in this week because I've been through a lot. Oh boy, I was having so much pain that I purposely did my ear piercing again because I wanted to focus on pain something else. And I was like, what else can I do? And I grabbed that book. It's not even that thick. And I started reading. And as I'm going through it, I'm like, what is this? And that got me laughing. I was laughing and cracking for a while.
Yeah, I got the one in there too in the book where I talk about me running from gangs. Yeah. Thank you, Wanda. Thank you. So what we want to do is when you seek help, you want to be able to talk to somebody who, whenever we're dealing with our situations as black people, you want to deal with a therapist who has a profession, who knows what they're talking about, who's skilled when it comes to dealing with trauma-informed care. They have to be an expert in this. You can't just talk to somebody that's a therapist that talks just anything. Here's the number one thing that I want y'all to realize when you go see a therapist. When you walk into a room with a therapist should have a clipboard, paper, and a pen every time you walk in there with that therapist. And a therapist will normally ask you somewhere around this words, how are you doing today? And that's it. And they're supposed to listen to you. And they're supposed to be jotting down notes. Don't get offended when they're jotting down notes because they can't remember everything you're saying. So they're supposed to be taking notes. That is a good therapist. If you
Therapist use a computer now.
That too. If you walk in that therapist's office and they say, look like you having a bad day today. Look like you really, I'm going to give you these daggone pills and you call me later. That is a drug dealer. That is a drug dealer. Literally. And I'm honest. I got therapists got mad at me because I said that. Yeah, because they're doing nothing. A therapist will sit down and give you holistic therapy. That holistic therapy is you talking to them and them listening. Most therapists will not prescribe you any drugs.
So I got a drug dealer.
The psychiatrists are the ones who are
Prescribed, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-mm. But you have some that will go and they will send you to that psychiatrist just so they can get you them drugs.
Right.
Because they got me on 60 milligrams of Prozac. That's a lot, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, it is.
They wanted me to take drugs. I took them for a little while, then I quit.
So whenever you walk into a therapist's office or any of the psychiatrists too, when you walk in that office, they're supposed to listen to you. Because the only way they're going to know what's wrong with you is to hear what you're saying. Most people are looking at you, I know what's wrong with you. You schizophrenic, yeah. And they ready to give you them drugs.
Right.
You got ADHD.
Bipolar and stuff.
All that stuff. But yeah. Some of them got the pill sitting in the closet. Pulled it on me. Here you go. So you really want to deal with somebody who's trauma informed, because we are traumatized as black people. Constantly. We're getting it from the television. We're getting it from the streets. We're getting it in our neighborhoods. We're getting it from other people. People want to kill us because of the color of our skin. People hate us because they hate themselves. So we are traumatized, and we have to understand that. You want a trauma-informed care specialist.
Not unless you're a beauty queen or a handsome guy, they don't hate you that much.
Look at Halle Berry. Look at Halle Berry. Yes. This one right here is our 24-hour hotline. This is I call it 988 or 1-800-854-7771. This is literally where you can get some help. But like I said, I'm gonna give you a copy of this as well. You want? Because y'all gave me your emails, right? Everybody, I sent it to you.
I'm not computer email savvy like that, so I need mine on paper.
I got you. I'll print it out for you and get it to you next week. Yeah.
I'm finna ask him something real simple after this.
So this right here, I put these up here. These is where I did the research. These are great sites where you can find good therapists. This one, and this one. You'll find a lot of black women on here. There are a lot of black female therapists. Some of them up in Pasadena. Some of them are way up in San Francisco because they don't want to live here in L.A. You understand why they don't want to live in L.A.? Because they got a duck every time they get in their car, and they drive around in Bentleys and stuff like that. So they'd rather live up there. You could talk to them over the internet. And they do what is called telehealth. Yeah. Telehealth, yeah.
That's how you know a black person.
I need therapy for me and my son to be able to have joint conjunction therapy. The therapist that I have, the worker that I have, she's not helping.
That's how you know a black person really made it. A black woman or man is when they move out, because they doing real good and successful.
Yeah. So this. A lot of these, the ones I'm giving you these resources, this is where I did a lot of my studying from when I wrote my book.
Right.
So this one right here, the multi-generational legacy of trauma, that's a great one. This one gives you public resources when it comes to traumatic stress studies. This one talks about how our children go through trauma. This one is the Children's Institute, which is right down the street from us. They have a beautiful organization where children who are dealing with mental health or who are in a traumatic event, they can go to Children's Institute and they'll be able to help them. Sycamore is a way where you can go for your family. Sycamore helps out the family when it comes to having a better home life. And then this is the name of my book, Intergenerational Trauma from a Black Perspective. So it looks like I only got one book left. I done sold all my books. Do I have it? That's how it looks.
Let me buy that book because I'm not computer savvy like that.
You said it's on Amazon?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it easy to read?
Yeah, it's smaller. It is. I made the book for my mom to read.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because my mother, she was like, "Babe, I need them big words and everything. I need the letters big."
Very, very nice by print.
Yeah, I spaced everything out in it. Me, so on Amazon, I don't know, but
Thing that I noticed for future reference, there's no chapter page.
no,
So you need to put a bookmark.
yeah.
Remember what
What page you on? Yeah, that was a mistake on my part because when I had it published, I didn't put the pages in there. But me personally, out of my box, I sold 30 copies. But I can't tell you how many I sold on Amazon.
You sold a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
I noticed a book, the more and more I talk about it, the more and more it sells. And anybody got any questions?